Good morning, everyone. I always like to start that off. I had missed it earlier, but Marcos had asked on the very first stream what piece of music that was. That is my absolute favorite piece of music from any Infinity Engine game. That is the theme from Kuldahar when you first reach that city in Icewind Dale. It is my absolute favorite piece of music from that game, and a game filled with great music. So, for those of you who are wondering what that was. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're picking up with part 3 of the modding tutorial. I did not see that I had any questions from the last two other than that music question from Marcos. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Wandering Scholar had provided a sound file for the Slippery Court item from the last stream. So we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to just quickly add that. The good news is I already had the item set up to reference the sound file. So all we're going to do is I've downloaded the file here. We're just going to add a wave folder. Drop this in here. And then we just need to go to the TP2 and just make sure it gets copied. So I'm just going to add like a little miscellaneous section here at the end. And we're going to copy, let's see, it's wave, and it's G3C court. Oh, dot wave. There we go. Now the sound files in the olden days when we didn't have so much bandwidth, we would ship files as OGG files and then convert them at the end process to wave files. The EEs actually accept OGG files directly. You just have to name them as wave files. So if you're doing a mod with a whole bunch of sound files, like an NPC with a sound set or something else that has a whole bunch of sound files, Waidu has its own handle audio command that can let you like bulk convert them. Because we only have one sound file, it's not worth it, because to do that bulk conversion, you either need to ship socks with macOS or you need to ship OGG encoder with Windows. And both of those they're not big, but they're a couple megabytes. And since we're only doing one file, it's not worth the overhead. So I already checked. This file is just a pure wave file, so it will work in the originals and the EEs as is without conversion. So we're just going to leave it that way, and we're just going to copy it. And we're not going to bother doing the audio conversion. If anybody really wants to see that in action, I can go through it, but it's essentially you just add socks, OGG encoder, and then point the handle audio function. And basically, all you have to do is you have to say, like, here's my wave files, here's where you can find socks or OGG encoder. And then it will automatically detect, is this an enhanced edition, is this an original, and then handle your audio files accordingly. If you look in most NPC mods, you can find it. I most recently did it, I think, for Amber would probably be my most recent usage of it. So if you wanna see it in action and working, go check out and see how Amber handles it. It's the function is called handle audio, just handle_audio. It's also in the Waidu documentation, so you can also check there for more information. So that was kind of the last bit. The other thing I thought I'd do, being as we've been kind of grinding through items, I thought today maybe we would do something a little different to start us off. Hello, Chaco. So I was thinking that we would circle back to the Battle Blade and actually we've already placed it on Zalanora down here. And I thought maybe let's do something a little fun, and we'll do a little bit of scripting and actually get Zalanora to use it. So we're going to dip our toes into scripting really quick. Now, the thing with AI scripting is it's both really simple and really difficult. It's simple in that scripting a creature to use an item is really very basic. But it's also a bit of an art form in determining when and where and how to prioritize using that item. Because Zalanora has a whole combat script of using spells and using contingencies and all this other stuff. So we need to look at our script and intelligently think about, like, where would she use this and under what circumstances. So first let's just find Zalanora in the discard changes. I was playing around that before the stream. So she is Mage 18Z. So here is Zalanora. She's modified because the mod's already been installed, so she currently has the item. Now, every creature has 5 script slots. She's only using 2 of them. But and they execute in this order. Like anything in the override, anything in this script fires before anything in this script, which would fire in between these 3 scripts. And she's using generic scripting. Anything with GP, that's a general purpose script, and it's a shout script. So this is our first time taking a look at scripting, but the basic format of a script is you have an if block, and then you have a response. So basically, if this is true, do this. And the nice thing for scripting is, for the most part, it is human readable. Like if she's attacked by good cutoff is a short off that means the party, or like the party summons. So if she's attacked by good and she is one of the blue allegiances, right? She's blue circled, then she'll turn hostile and she'll do shout 151. And so shouts can be any numbers. In this case, 151 is a general shout, and if she hears anyone do a shout 151 and they're in my group, which means they're an ally of mine, and I'm not an innocent, in other words, I'm not like just a random townsperson, and I'm still blue, then I turn hostile, and then I go to whoever I heard shouting. So this is like the basic, how basic shouts work in the game. And you can see there's, if I'm attacked, if I'm hit, if I see somebody with good cutoff and I've already been turned hostile, then I'll shout. If I'm already hostile from something else and I see, a party member or their summons, then I'm going to shout and then keep executing the script. So this is just kind of your good generic shout script. This is how, when you attack one member of a group, everybody goes hostile. That's done through shouts. Or if you're in town and you attack, random townsperson and everybody else, all the other townspeople turn red and run away, that's all shouts. So her next script is a generic mage script. So the game has a series of generic, she doesn't have bespoke, this is scripting for Zalanora specifically. There's a mage series, there's a priest series, and there's a druid series of spells. And generally, the number that's in them stands for what level of mage this should be for. So a mage 18 means this is going to have, it's going to expect that the person running it is going to have 9th level spells. So we can just take a quick look at it. And so it starts off series, if I see an enemy and if this variable is 0, then I'm going to prep with all these spells. So apply spell means she drops it instantly and there's no casting animation. So she sees an enemy and she hasn't done this before. She instantly drops Stone Skin, Spell Trap, Mirror Image, and Spell Turning, and then Protection from Magical Weapons. Now the player can't do this, and that's fine because the AI cheats like this all the time. So seeing something like this is not unexpected. The next block is, if I'm silenced and I have Vocalize, cast it. Simple enough. Stuff like this is, check stat less than 1 stone skins. This basically means if my stone skin count is less than 1 and I'm taking damage, then I'm going to fire off this fake chain contingency, and that's going to give me spell turning, mislead, and stone skin. And then you notice these all have if prep 2 is 0, set it to 1. These variable checks like this are just so that this block never repeats. She'll only do this once in combat because of this variable check. Because it'll be 0, she'll set it to 1, and the next time she comes through here, this will not be true anymore because this value is now 1. So this whole block will only fire once. As opposed to, say, this block, which as long as she has Vocalize, every time she gets silenced, she'll keep vocalizing herself until she is out of vocalized spells. So something like this block will happen more than once. Like this one, again, there's a variable, so this block can only happen once, because as soon as she executes it, she sets this variable to 1. These conditions can never be true again. This is a one-off block. This is a repeating block. And so you can kind of see, the basic pattern, right? So prep 2 goes from 0 to 1. And if she runs out of stone skins and takes damage again, she has one last cast where she'll push this variable from 1 to 2. And this time she'll fire off another fake contingency that fires protection from magical weapons. And then it's just some more generic scripting. Like if she doesn't have bounce or immunity effects up, she's going to drop a spell turning. And force spell is another cheat used by the AI. She doesn't even have to have the spell memorized. She just casts it. So the AI has a lot of cheats like this. And then this is another, if I'm at less than 15 hit points, I'm going to force a time stop. I'm going to gate in a demon, and then Dryad teleport means I'm teleporting away permanently. So when she gets close to death, she basically says, here's a demon, I'm out of here. Best of luck to you. And then you can also see she's also got, like, if I see the third nearest enemy myself, you'll often see checks like this. This is usually a lazy way to check for how many enemies are attacking you. Because you'll notice she actually casts both spells on the nearest enemy myself. But the third, basically, like, if you're soloing, you'll never see this block because she will only see one enemy, and that will be the nearest. The third nearest enemy doesn't exist. So this would not be true unless you have, at least 3 party members, or you, and maybe you've summoned 2 creatures. So if she sees 3 creatures, she's going to fire off a time stop, and she has time stop memorized. Then spell. This is a legitimate casting, right? She actually has to have the spell memorized, and the spell will come out of her memories. Spell no decrement. This is another cheating way to cast a spell. It basically says, cast the spell like normal, but don't take it out of memorization. So if she has 1 imprisonment memorized and she uses this, she will still have an imprisonment memorized even after using the spell. So basically this is another kind of FU block of scripting, because it's, I'm going to time stop, I'm going to imprison, I'm going to time stop again, then I'm going to horde wilton, I'm going to do a horde wielding, then I'm going to stun, and then I'm going to time stop you one more time, I'm going to summon in a Efreet, and then I'm going to maze. So you can see this is a high level wizard script. Now the difference between something like this and SCS is that this is all exceptionally simple targeting, right? You don't see, she's just targeting like nearest, second nearest, third nearest. If you were to look at a mage script from, say, Sword Coast Stratagems, this is, how big is the script? The script is 195 lines. If you were to look at something like a Sword Coast Stratagem mage script, it's going to be thousands of lines. And probably the first half of it is going to be purely on deciding who is the biggest threat and who I should be targeting spells at. So if you look at any sort of advanced AI scripting, they'll just have blocks and blocks of, like, can I see a mage? Can I see a fighter? What level are they? What are their hit points? And there's so much of an art to determining who I want to take out of my attackers first, right? And something like Sword Coast Stratagems rightfully targets mages and spellcasters first, because those are generally the biggest threats, especially for mages, right? If you're a mage, you put up stone skins, you have a bit of a cushion. You don't have to worry about fighters or other melee attackers, at least for a couple of rounds. But the spellcasters are your dangers. So while she is dropping like high level spells here, she's also not fighting them very intelligently, right? The nearest enemy myself could be like a summoned skeleton, right? I mean, there's no, it could be somebody from Monster Summoning 1, right? There's no intelligence as to how she's targeting. So that's what I mean when I say that AI scripting is very simple in that, hello, Choco. Sorry, my cat's right here meowing at me. When I say AI scripting is very simple in that, here's how you cast spells, but it's also a bit of an artwork in determining who we're going to cast spells at and in what order and what priority. What is considered the enemy myself? Yes, pretty much. Red circles can circle consider green circles enemies and vice versa. That is true. For the most part, nearest enemy myself basically ignores blue circles. Like if you are a blue circle, nearest enemy myself has no meaning. So this is basically like if you use nearest enemy myself and it's, say, a party member running it, the nearest enemy is anybody with a red circle. If you're red circle, nearest enemy means pretty much anything with a green circle. So party members, familiars, summons. In some cases, you can also get guards depending on how they're coded. But for the most part, yes, it's nearest enemy is basically red versus green. In its simplest set. And there's nearest enemy whenever there's like a nearest X of something. Generally, these go out to 10, right? You can go out to like 10th nearest enemy. There's nothing beyond that. But for the most part, if you're trying to target like the 11th nearest enemy, you should probably be focusing a little closer to home for something like that. So our first question is, so the item that we're giving her casts a blade barrier. So when you look at this, like, where should this be prioritized, right? You obviously don't want it ahead of her pre-buffs. If she's silenced, you want Vocalize to take priority. Same with Stone Skins, right? I would say Stone Skin is more important to get up than a blade barrier. Same with spell turning, because remember, she's a Cald wizard and she's showing up because people are casting spells. I would say spell turning is more important. And then also like these big high level time stops, blade barrier is not more important, especially this one, which is a big, this is a big FU to the attackers. So we look at it. She's also got this where she basically, if she sees, now, so PC is specifically the party. So if she sees a party member at less than 60 hit points, power word kill. And she can do this. So as long as kill is less than 5 and kill goes up every time she uses it. So she will use this block 5 times. So she will power word kill her way through your party. I would say this is also more important than getting a blade barrier. Then we've got this. Oh, and I assumed that you know this, but I figure I should point this out. Scripts execute from top to bottom. So when a script execute, it goes from the top and it looks for the first block where all the conditions are true. And then it executes that block. And then after it executes that block, it goes back to the top and goes through the script again. So, if she gets to this point and she casts a power word kill, the next time it executes the script, it goes right back to the top and starts looking through again. And then maybe it gets back here and there's another PC that's ready for a power word kill. If not, then it will check next. So that's why I'm going top to bottom about where do we want to place this. And then finally, she also has a generic spell trigger where she fires a True Sight, a Remove Magic, and a Disintegrate. So I don't think Blade Barrier should get ahead of that. And then down here at the bottom, you notice there are some generic decrementing spellcast. So like if I see the 6 nearest party myself, right? If there are 6 party members, I can do Finger of Death, Magic Missile, or Monster Summoning 3. Now this is our first example of, you notice that this has multiple responses. This weights how likely these responses are going to be. So, we got 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 220. So think of this as like a D220, right? 1 to 20, she hits the nearest enemy myself with a Finger of Death. If it hits, on the next 20, the second gets a Magic Missile, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth Magic Missiles. And then in 100 of the 220 rolls, a Monster Summoning 3. And you can see it's got a repeating black for now if there's only 5 enemies. It's the exact same thing, except you'll notice this is missing from this block. And as you go down, you'll notice it keeps paring down. So when she gets this point, it's kind of like, I've done my big heavy spells. Now I'm just doing the occasional Finger of Death, Magic Missile, or summonings. So I would say if we're going to put Blade Barrier, we would want to insert it here. Now, this is a bit of an obnoxious problem because Waidu has very, very easy ways. If I want to make a new script, you simply take like a BAF file and you compile it, and boom, you've got a new script. If I wanted to put something at the top or the bottom of this, Waidu has commands to extend top or extend bottom. that would very easily let us put new scripting at the top or the bottom of the script. Because we want to place it in the middle, this becomes a pain in the butt. And the reason why is we now have to do essentially a text replacement. So we need to find something like this, or actually probably something like this, near where we want to insert it. And we're basically going to find this with a replace textually, and then, replace this with itself, and then the new block that we want to insert. So this is a bit of a pain in the butt. So let's go back to our TP2 and let's set this up. So I'm going to do a new section for scripting. All right, so first we're going to copy this script. This is what? mage18z.bcs, mage18z.bcs. And of course, we're going to copy it to the override. Now, a BCS is a compiled script, right? This is NI showing us the very user-friendly. This is what a BCS actually looks like. Obviously, this is not human readable. This is not why we do it. So if we want to do a nice replace textually, first we want to get it into this form. So we, I think it's decompile. Yeah, decompile and patch begin. So this tells Waidu, grab it and decompile it into this nice human-friendly, human-readable kind of text. Next, we're going to find this. And we're going to, within that, we're going to replace textually. This is Waidu's generic text replacement. And we're going to do a little bit of regular expressions, even though they're big and scary. We kind of need to here. So what we really want to replace are these two blocks, are these two lines. Now, there's no character for a line break. Waidu sets of variables, preloaded variables for Linux new lines, Mac new lines, and Windows new lines. WNL. So the percentages basically tell Waidu that these are variables, and these are predefined by Waidu. So I don't have to define what these are. Waidu has already done it. It's a regular expression, so the bracket means, and I'm also going to add a space and a tab just in case those are there too. So the brackets mean match any of these characters, right? I don't care if it's a Linux new line, a Mac new line, a Windows new line, a space, or a tab. And then the plus means this whole thing, you need to match one or more. So if for whatever reason there's multiple spaces, multiple tabs, a mixture of Linux new lines and Windows new lines and tabs and spaces, match all of those. And then we want it to match end. So we're matching from here to here is what we're matching. So we're going to replace this text. Now we're going to do a trick in that we're going to wrap this whole thing in these special parentheses. This turns this, and I have to say, so you do slash parentheses to tell Waidu this is a special internal kind of, parentheses where I want to match this set. So it basically takes whatever I've matched in here, and now in the replacement, I can simply refer back to that as /1 because this is the first set that I've matched. So this gets a /1. So basically match this text and then replace it with itself plus some stuff that we're going to add here. So regular expressions by themselves. Okay, yeah, I'll go back to response and waits really quick in a second, Skelly. Regular expressions are advanced magic. And if none of that made sense to you, that's completely fine. Regular expressions are very difficult and they're used in a lot of programming languages. So if you really want to learn this, I would suggest going to, I'm sure you can probably go to YouTube and find like 8 Brazilian tutorials on regular expressions because they're used in Perl, they're used in all sorts of other languages. They're exceptionally powerful. The Waidu implementation of them is a little weird, but the basics are there, right? I mean, using brackets to designate, match anything in this group. Using the plus to indicate you need to match one or more. You could also use the star to indicate match, 0 or more. So basically making this entirely optional. In this case, we do want a line break. So I'm probably making this more confusing than I need to, but just know that this is like a special thing. And if it doesn't make a lot of sense, that's fine, because this is regular expressions are probably something that by itself we could probably spend several hours talking about. So just know that this is the way to match a new line. So basically we want somewhere in the script, this and this are unique. So, because the danger is, if I were to just do like this line shows up other places. So if I just match something like this if and this sixth, I could be patching multiple places at the wrong place. There's only one place in the script where it sets this variable to 1. So I know this is a unique line, and then I grab the end just out of convenience. So, and then the /1 is just basically a way to say whatever you matched here in between these brackets, in between this and this, put that back exactly. And then we're going to add to it our new scripting block. Skelly wanted me to talk a little bit more about these weighted responses. So let me see if I can find. So let's just do the simplest example down here of this, because it's got 2 responses, right? If I see the nearest enemy of myself, response 20 weight and response 100 weight, and if this is so basically if it gets to this point, the script says, oh, I see the nearest enemy myself. What do I do? Well, there's 2 possible options, right? One is that I'm going to target the nearest enemy myself with Finger of Death, or I'm going to target myself with Monster Summoning. I know that looks weird to target yourself with Monster Summoning, but that's how you do it. Basically, you target yourself so that the monsters appear right next to you. But how does it choose these 2? So you'll notice there's these numbers here. There's 20 and there's 100. So like I said, these total up to 120. So imagine rolling like D120. And if it comes up 1 to 20, it does this. And if it comes up 21 to 120, it'll do this. So these are weights, right? This, by being 5 times that, is 5 times more likely to occur. It's 5 times more likely that she is going to use Monster Summoning 3 than she is Finger of Death. And like I said, you can do this very complicated, right? Like this one, you're rolling like that D220, right? And so 1 to 20 is here, 21 to 40, 41 to 60, 61 to 80, 81 to 100, 101 to 120, and then 121 to 220. So overall, or you can think of this as, right, like this is still 5 times more likely than these individually, but these are still more likely because there's these total to 120. But yeah, so these are basically weights, right? So if you want something to be, like 50-50, you would do equal weights. If you wanted something to be 1 and 3, you could do 3 of these blocks with equal weights, right? Like this, this wasn't here. You'd have a 1 in 3 chance for any one of these branches. So let me undo that before I F up the script. So most of the time, it's very rare you'll see this, right? But the reason why you do this is to give a little bit of randomization to an enemy AI script. Sometimes you'll see a script where it will be like response 100, cast a spell, and then response 100, nothing, right? And the reason why you do that is to give a little bit of randomness to the script, so that every time you fight, a mage or an enemy, they don't always do the same thing in the same order all the time. Because otherwise it becomes very obvious, like, oh, she's going to show up, and then she's going to do this, and then she's going to do that, and then she's going to do this, and they become very predictable. And I mean, the AI, anybody who's played the game knows that the basic AI, it's still fairly predictable, but this is one way that you can mix it up a little bit. And really good AI scripts like David you'll see some variety in these. You'll also see a lot more. Like I said, the targeting sophistication is kind of the big innovation for AI scripts. And then, what to use and who to use it on, and then randomizing that a little bit too is kind of where the art form of AI scripting comes. So we've targeted this with our replace textually. So now we've matched it, we've put it back so that we don't lose it. And so now we're going to write our own script block. So because we're using, oh yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, weights are not a percentage chance. By convention, a lot of people like to make it so that the responses add up to 100 just to make it simple, but it doesn't matter. What matters is their weights relative to one another. Like for me, like whenever I'm doing something where I split, like I'll do, like if I want it to be a 50-50 chance, I'll do response 50 and response 50, just because to me, that's easier to read when I come back. I'm like, what am I doing here? But like response 50, response 1, response X and response another X. As long as they're equal, they'll be 50-50. But for me, by convention, I like them to add up to 100 because then I can very quickly see, what I'm doing with a certain response block. So that's something that you should probably get in the habit of doing yourself, just because it will make your life easier when you're looking back on your own AI scripting. So, all right. So another trick we're going to do is Zalanor's new item casts Blade Barrier. So one of the easiest things we can do here is let's find Blade Barrier. All right, let's find the spell. And let's find how, one of the things I've been talking about a couple times is making sure that we want our mod to not stand out as mod content. So one of the easiest things we can do is let's find how other AI scripting references and uses Blade Barrier and see what sort of conditions they put on it. So we're going to search through all the BCSs. This is all the game scripting to see where people are actually using Blade Barrier. So let's look at a general purpose script. Let's look at GP Healer and see how they're using Blade Barrier. So simple checks. Do I have Blade Barrier? Global timer not expired. This is basically so that when it casts, basically they don't want it to cast again for 20 minutes. So if I have Blade Barrier, if this timer is either not initialized or has expired, cast Blade Barrier on myself, set the timer so that I don't do this again for 20 minutes. I don't know why there's a clear all actions here. That's a little silly. So that's, this is a very simple use. Let's see if there's there's something a little more complicated than that. So let's look at, this is Aries script when she gets in a party fight. That's why it's Aries X. And she just has, if I see your nearest enemy, I have Blade Barrier, and then it does a variable check so that she'll only use it once. Nice and simple. Let's see if we have any other. The OH and BD scripting, these are generally scripts from CamDawg, and generally, more specifically, these are generally from Ardanis or from Avenger, not DLTC EP Avenger, but Rogue Rebalancing Avenger. It's kind of weird that we have two Avengers in the community. So OH is probably going to be a little more sophisticated. So let's look at, this is a Hair Delise script. And I say that, and no, it's not more sophisticated at all. So basically, if I see, this wants to be when he fights with Hexat, right? If I see Hexat, I have Blade Barrier, cast it. All right, so that's not sophisticated at all. I was hoping for a little more out of that. And let's see. Yeah, all of these are, this one basically says, oh, and here's a good example, right? So they don't want to do a buff more than every 2 minutes. So if the buff timer has expired and I have Blade Barrier, 70-30, right? So these are set up as percentages. So 70% of the time, yeah, file Blade Barrier. 30% of the time, no. Continue. So continue means, yes, this is true, but continue processing the script. Like, don't go back up to the top, keep going down. So you notice this has got a couple of these, right? There's a whole series of spell buffs. So basically it looks like it essentially randomly chooses a spell buff. So it checks like, do I have Storm Shield? 99% use Storm Shield. 1% continue. If I have Boon of Lathander, use it. So this is a good way where you can see the randomness, a script using randomness to randomize their buffs and what they're going to use. So it looks like Blade Barrier is used in a very, very simple way. So I'm just going to go back to the area example, and we're just going to grab this and use this as our starting point. But we're going to refine this slightly. So, and we're just going to drop this in. So now the difference is, of course, is that we are not casting this as a memorized spell. We are using this as an item. So let's take a look at how items are used. So not that. We're going to search through scripts, and let's see, for example, how Wand of 5 is the Wand of Fire. So let's see how a script would use a Wand of Fire. So here we go. The OHB item is a nice generic, here's, a generic script for using items that are in inventory. So we see if they have the item, and then we use the item. Nice and easy. So we're going to grab that has item. Oops. And has item is going to replace have spell because this isn't a memorized spell. Oh, did I not copy that? Let's try that again. All right, so instead of have spell, we're going to have has item. And the item is this, the Battle Blade. So if I have the item, G3 CAC, and we're also going to change the global name so that we don't step on, in case somebody else comes here and uses this, because Blade is kind of a generic. So we're going to make it specifically to this. So if I have the item, if I've not used it before, because remember it only has one charge, so we only want this block to execute once because the item only has one charge. We don't want them to try and use an item that is out of charges. So we want them to use item. Now the difference is this is targeted at nearest enemy of myself, but we want to use this item. Is Blade Barrier. It's a self buff. So we want to cast this on ourself, not on the nearest enemy. So that's also one change that we want to make. So if I see the nearest enemy myself, I have this item, and I've not executed this block before, use this item. Boom, done. Now we can make this slightly more sophisticated with some range checks, because with this encounter specifically, remember this is a Cowled Wizard encounter, and when the Cowled Wizards show up, they teleport like 4 guys right on top of each other. So if she fires this, more than likely she's going to be hurting her fellow Cowled Wizards more than she's going to be messing with the party members. So let's add a couple of checks to this for range. So let's again come back here. We're going to go back and we're going to do another BCS search, text search for BCS, and we can see how folks use range. I'm going to sort these. So you can see most of these are, a range like this is a range to a specific person, right? When you see quotes, it's referring to a specific person. So let's go down to the more generic range checks, right? You got range to the nearest enemy. And when it's an exclamation point, that means negation. So this means if the 5th nearest enemy is not within 6 feet of me, do whatever's in this, then it's true. And then down below, you'll see some true range checks. If the range to the last person I heard is within 25 feet, then this is true. So let's grab some simple checks. We want to, let's see. Let's do something like, let me just grab this as a starting point. So the range. So let's not have her, if nobody's near her, let's not bother, right? So let's also say the range to the nearest enemy needs to be, let's say, within 5 feet, right? Because if she's getting plinked by, the party from 20 feet away by bows and spells, firing Blade Barrier is a wasted turn, right? There's no point unless somebody is actually in range of that Blade Barrier. Now, IE scripting is not sophisticated enough to be like, yeah, there's a barbarian 8 feet away, that is charging me, there's no way to determine that. So one of the big failures where IE scripting is not good is with spatial awareness. If you go through IE scripting and you look at like when somebody casts a fireball or other area of effect spells, you'll notice it's always cast at a target, right? It doesn't, right? If there's two people within fireball range, it doesn't split the difference between them because there's no way for IE scripting to do that, right? If you look at fireball, usually it's some basic checks, right? I'm going to target it at a specific enemy. I'm going to make sure none of my allies are within 15 feet of them. And really that's about it. That's kind of all you can do. You know, are my allies kind of within range of my target, or are there multiple people within range of that target? And that's kind of it, right? You don't get a lot of sophistication with this. So the other thing too is I only want to cast this if there's an enemy within 5 feet of me, but I also don't want to cast this if I have allies within 5 feet of me. So for that, we can use, let me go back to this. Not last attacker. I think it's like, it's going to be probably negation. It's like, it's one of the group checks. Seen by, last trigger, nearest enemy, nearest door. We definitely don't need nearest door. Here we go, nearest group of my type. All right, so we're going to use this check. And I'll talk about groups here in a second. And let's do, so we want it to be, we want to make sure that anybody from my group is outside of 5 feet so that I'm not doing friendly fire to my friends. So the bad news with this is this probably means that this will never actually be used because she tends to spawn in the middle of like 4 other Cald wizards. And because she's the most dangerous, she's probably going to be the first target of the party, which means she's, you know, if she were the last one standing, this might matter. But being as she's probably going to be the first one to die out of that group, it means realistically this probably won't fire. But like I said, the flip side of this is she fires Blade Barrier and then she like kills her buddies, which is why you do want to do this check. So groups. So if we come back to Zalanora, out of the spells. She was what? Mage 18Z. So groups are controlled by, let me find it here. Creatures have specifics. Now, specifics are generally undefined. You can get 255 different values, and so you can make your own groups. I don't think they do. I checked it this morning. I had Viconia fire up a Blade Barrier and stand next to the PC, and the PC had to keep making saves. So Blade Barriers are not party friendly. If I'm wrong about that, we can remove that check. That's easy enough, but I'm pretty sure that they do friendly fire damage. So Zalanora's her specific is 77. This is the group value. So anybody else who has the specific value is considered to be in her group. So, and we can do a quick check on that and let's see who else is in this group. So let's say we've got, so Am Guards, these are the monks from Am Ketharon, and you'll see we've got a whole bunch of Cald enforcers, right? And Cald wizards. It looks like we have a few other stragglers on here that are probably just in different groups. They're party friendly for non-party. Okay. Then I will. Oh, okay. Hold on. I want to double check something because I think I know what might be going on there really quick. But yeah, so you can see Cald enforcers, who are the buddies who are going to show up with her, are all in this. So yes, if one of these Cald enforcers, yeah, that's what's going on. So hold on one second. I'll get to that Wandering Scholar. So yes, so if she's next to one of these guys, which are who she shows up with, she's not going to use Blade Barrier because she's not going to nuke it. So, all right. So, Wandering Scholar is pointing out that there is a special version of Blade Barrier used by enemies that is party friendly. So, if we were to look, we've got Blade Barrier, and then you notice how there's this shadow copy down here. And this one is the NPC Blade Barrier. And so this is a special version used by enemies that, let's see, the D spell is what does the actual damage. So yes, this has a special projectile that ignores party members, or it says not party, but it basically means your allies. However, this item casts Blade Barrier directly, the party version. So it will affect her allies because we're not cheating here. We're not using this special party-friendly version of Blade Barrier that only enemies use. So we do have to worry about it because we want her to legitimately use this item in a way that's fair to the party. Now, we could script her to basically fake it. No, that's what I'm saying. The item uses the normal spell that's available to the party, and that spell does do friendly fire damage. The NPC Blade Barrier is a special version used by enemies that is friendly to your allies. The ring that we're adding to Zalanora uses the normal party Blade Barrier that is not friendly to allies. So she does have to worry about hurting her allies with it. So that's why we're going to leave that in there. Now we could fake it. We could, instead of use item, we could basically force in an NPC Blade Barrier and use that. So, and actually, now I think about it, being as other NPCs do that, yeah, let's do that. So let's find where folks use NPC Blade Barrier. So all right. So you can see it basically just gets applied or force spelled. So yeah, let's just grab one of these. So instead of actually using the ring, we are going to force in the fake party-friendly Blade Barrier. Because, hey, that's what other NPCs do. So in a way, this is actually more realistic or makes it fit in more with the mod. So, all right, so let's try this and see if we can actually, if this is actually set up correctly and my regular expression is correct and this actually turns up in the script. So let me do that. I didn't make any changes. So let's set up G3 CIP language 0 and then yes. Let's see. Have we screwed anything up? This is always the fun time. Yep, we have a parse error at line 62. What is line 62? What have we done? Line 62. So, oh, of course. All right. So I opened up a decompile and patch, and I never ended to tell it to recompile. And then just in case we aren't making any changes, we're going to do a but only since we're doing a copy existing. All right. I forgot to close my decompile and patch. So that's why we're getting our parse error. Let's try that again. There we go. All right. Installed this time. Now let's see if it actually made the change. So that was age 18 Z. It's good. It bolds. That's encouraging. So let's see if we've got it. There it is. We've inserted it right where we want to. If they have the item, if an enemy is within 5 feet, if I've not used it before, we're going to really force spell. Now, really force spell basically means do it instantly without a casting animation, and you don't have to have it memorized. So it's just going to pop into existence just like she used the items. That's why I used really force spell, because it's basically a way to essentially cheat it. We've seen it a couple, right? You see really force spell, you've seen spell no decrement, you've seen proper spell, you've seen apply spell. Actually, apply spell might be better here. But in case you're wondering what all those do, if you come back to the ISDP, these are your scripting references. So we're looking at actions, and you're going to find there are a bunch of ways to cast spells. Right? This is normal spell. This means use the spell. It has to be memorized. You're going to go through the casting animation. It's going to take one out of your memory. Spell res does the same thing. This is just if you want to use the file name instead of its symbolic reference. Now we also have like force spell and apply spell. So let me find those. Spell point this is how you cast an area of effect spell at a target at like a specific point. So this basically, but this is the same thing. This is also a fair usage. You have to have it memorized. It will take one out of your memory. Let's see. That's still more spell references. Force spell. So this causes the creature to cast the spell at the target, but the spell does not need to be memorized and it cannot be interrupted. So this is a big difference because basically it's going to cast the spell, but it doesn't have to be a legitimate cast because it's not a memorization and it can't be interrupted. So this is kind of your first cheat. And then you've got Force Spell Point, which is basically the area of effect version of this. More force spells. Let's see, because there's also an apply spell, and then there's the really force, which I think remove spell. No, that's not what we're looking for. Apply spell. So basically, this. Okay, yeah, I think we do want applied, and let me match the case. So, yeah, you can see this is used for buffs because basically it applies instantly. There's no casting animation. It can't be interrupted, and they don't need to have they don't have to have it memorized. So this basically is how you see most enemy mages buff with apply spell. So I think we probably want apply spell instead. And then where is really force has got to be here. Spell no decrement is a legitimate casting, but it just basically means that that it won't pull it out of their memorization. And then where is my really force spell? Here's really force spell. Oh, this is also, I think, the only way you can target dead creatures is with the force spell dead. Force spell at range, force spell. Where's my really force spell? Cast it at the specific point, need not be memorized, can't be interrupted. Yes, and that's the other thing. The benefit to this is that it won't use the item charge, which means that the player could use the item right away, which is kind of it's not strictly speaking lore friendly, but it is. Come here, Iris. It's not lore friendly, but it will be a nice little perk for the player. So say hello to Iris. This is my girl. She has decided it's possibly a break time. So yeah, going back, I think we're going to use apply spell instead of really force spell. But you'll notice, right, there's a bunch of actions to cast spells. And that's because depending on whether you want it to be instant or cheat or legitimate or interruptible, right, that's why there's like all these variants on spell casting. So let's go back and actually we're going to use apply spell instead of really force. So we're going to apply spell instead. And then, yeah, because we're not legitimately using the item, this will basically, it won't use the item charge so that when the item drops, it will still have a charge for the player. Come here, sweetie. There we go. Oh, and I just realized that was a typo too. All right, so there we go. So Zalanor is now, excuse me, is now scripted to use it in, I think, a semi-intelligent way. And one of the big reasons why we have has item here is because Mage 18Z is not a Zalanor specific script. This is a generic mage script that can be used and assigned to other NPCs. So we want to make sure that anybody else who uses this doesn't just fire off a blade barrier. So we want to keep the has item check. Because only she gets the item, so only she should be able to fire this block. So let's go ahead and make our commits here. Let's see, we added the sound file too. So let's tortoise get, let's add that file. I don't think there are any other changes since our last commit. Yep, all right, let's get commit master, and we're gonna say added sound file. Zalanora uses battle blade. Yeah, still no readmes. Commit and push. Boom, boom, boom. And we're done. So I just want to do a little bit of scripting and kind of introduce the idea and the concept. Do you guys have any scripting questions before we move on? Scripting gets, like I said, it's doing stuff is very easy, right? I mean, this is human readable, right? I see an enemy, I have this item, the enemy's within 5 feet, one time variable, and then I'm going to use this spell, right? But the art comes into how do I target things? Who do I prioritize? Where do I want it to be in the overall prioritization of the enemy? Okay. All right. So let's talk about shouts a little bit. So let's go back to GP shout. So a shout is a basic idea of creatures being able to communicate with each other, right? And these are just kind of generically called shouts. And so there's shout and then there's heard, right? So the basic idea of white space characters, this is purely added by the decompiler. White space does not matter whatsoever in scripting. Because like I said, when it gets to the game, this is what the game actually uses, right? The decompiler pulls it out and makes it look all nice like this. So don't worry about white space. By convention, this is how people do it, but generally this is added by the compiler, right? Like all of this could be on the left margin and it wouldn't matter. In fact, I'm pretty sure you could put this all on a single line and it will still compile just fine. White space really does not matter when it comes to scripting. Because like I said, you compile it, it turns it into this for the engine, and then the engine is perfectly fine with this. All right, so going back to shouts really quick. So there are some shouts defined. There is a shout.ids that has some predefined shouts in it. But for the most part, the important thing that matters is that you make a specific numbered shout and that you have people react to that specific shout. Like the number itself doesn't actually matter, just as long as like if you want this person to react to this person shouting, you got to make sure that the shouts match. And you can do different shouts. On more sophisticated scripts, you might see different shouts used for, the generic, I'm being attacked, I'm going hostile, and I want the rest of my group to go hostile with me. But there can also be shouts for, like I need healing, right? And that triggers your healer to come over and heal you. Or, healing is kind of the big one, but also, I need protection, or I'm running away, or whatever. So, and shouts, basically, the shouts themselves are meaningless. You give them meaning by how you have people react to hearing them. So you can see in this one, right, this is just a very generic, if I'm attacked or if I'm hit and I'm neutral, make a 151 shout and go hostile. And then the flip side of that on the same script, if I hear anybody do this shout and they're part of my group, I'm going hostile. And then I'm going to whoever I heard. I'm going to start moving towards whoever I heard shouting. Because the thing is, they may be being attacked in such a way that you may not see the enemy, even though you're in a shout range. Because shout ranges are different than visual range, right? You can hear people shouting outside of your visual range. There's also global shout. So global shout is just a shout, and you recognize it with heard. But a global shout basically has no range. So if you do a global shout in an area, everybody in the area who has a script that responds to it will come to you, right? And the reason why you don't use it is it's not really realistic for, if I attack somebody in the, bottom right corner of like the bridge district, having people come from the completely other end of the bridge is not realistic. So generally don't use global shout unless you think it's something like, an area that would have like a predefined alarm system, like having a global shout in some place like the bandit camp in the original Baldur's Gate. That would make sense, right? Because they probably have an alarm system, and as soon as one of them gets attacked, right, the whole camp should respond. But let's just say that using global shout, there are probably not going to be too many occasions when you should use it. So the value of the shout, right, this numerical value doesn't actually matter as much. You just basically want it to match what you want them to respond to, right? The specific value, just as long as it matches. It doesn't, that's the important thing here. And then the other thing too is you can see, So this one is if I hear it and it's from somebody in my group. Now, if I hear somebody and they're in my group and I'm not innocent, then I also want to move to that. But you can also have, oh, so here's another shout, right? So here we go. They are shouting 153. And they're shouting 123 because they're at less than 20% hit points. They're humanoid. This is presumably so that you don't have like Gollum shouting, because a Gollum wouldn't shout. You're making sure that you're not dead, because dead creatures shouldn't shout. And then you're doing a global so that this only happens once. And basically, if I see somebody nearby who's an ally, and I'm myself red circled, and that the person that I just looked at also isn't dead, then I'm going to display on the screen, help, I require assistance, defend me, or slay my attacker. And then I'm going to shout 153. Now, if anybody hears 153 and they don't have any spells, they're going to equip range, and then they're going to attack whoever is attacking the person who just shouted, right? So this is a mutual assistance block. Like, hey, I'm getting my butt kicked. Kill the guy who's killing me, please. And then this isn't shouts at all. This is just generic panic. So breaking point, this is basically morale failure. So if somebody hits morale failure, this doesn't have anything to do with shouts, but this basically says, hey, I want to bail. It just gives a little bit of flavor text. So this is another good example of a mutual shout. Basically, I am at less than 20% hit points, but I have more than one hit point. I'm not dead. I see an ally who's not dead. I request assistance. If they hear me and they have a ranged weapon, then start going after whoever's attacking me. So this is another example, not just the let's go hostile. This is the I need help. Please defend me. Please defend me shout. But also they only do it once too. So that's kind of your basic overview of shouts. And, shouts can get exceptionally complicated. Again, if you look at like high-end AI mods like Sword Coast Stratagems, you'll see they use like very sophisticated shout systems to do all sorts of stuff. There are other ways too, right? You don't have to rely on a shout. Like if you have a healer, you can just basically be... your healer can basically be like, if I see somebody in my group who's at less than 20% hit points, just go heal them. Right? I don't necessarily need to wait for a shout. So shouts aren't the only way to do it, but they are a good way to quickly, alert like all of your nearby group to some basic things like, I'm being attacked, or I need healing, or like this, the mutual assistance. So that's kind of your basic overview of shouts. For the most part, whenever I do AI, usually I'll just grab one of the existing shout scripts, just because it's what I'm doing usually doesn't need sophisticated levels of AI, and the existing shouts work. The other benefit to assigning, like existing scripts like GP shout or mage or priest, or the druid ones, is that if I just make a new creature and I give them like if I'm making a new druid and I just give them one of these druid scripts, right? This obviously is in line with the game AI, because this is default game AI. But the nice thing is a mod like Sword Coast Stratagems will come along and they update all of these generic scripts like this. So all of a sudden my druid, if they install Sword Coast Stratagems, my druid suddenly now is very intelligent because it's using Sword Coast Stratagems scripting. And a good example of this is if you've ever played the G3 Anniversary mod, the end of that mod has you face off with the Gibbering 12. And, spoiler alert, in case you haven't played it. And so it's basically this mage fight where you're teleported into this underground area, and then 12 mages, like they dimension in nowhere at various times, but you end up with 12 mages eventually. It's not all at once, because there's no way the party would survive that. But they come in. But I give them all generic mage scripts. And the fun thing is, it's a challenging fight, but if you have Sword Coast Stratagems, now you're facing 12 SCS AI mages. And I've heard from people who've played that with SES that it turns it into a ridiculously difficult and fun fight. So that's one of the reasons why yes, we could do bespoke scripting and have a make a custom script just for one character. But sometimes there are benefits to using generic scripts because then other mods are going to come along and improve them for you. So that's like a nice synergy you can do when you go with generic scripting like that. So I think unless there's any other scripting questions right now, I think we are an hour in. I think I'm going to go ahead and let's put a bow on the scripting for now, unless you guys have any questions. And let's take a quick little break. If you do have any questions, drop them in the chat, and then we'll hit them when we come back from break. But otherwise, I'm going to grab myself some tea, and then we'll carry on when I come back. Say hello to Iris. Sorry, the lighting's so bad in here. You probably can't see her very well. But she is using the break to demand attention. All right, sweetheart. Say goodbye. There we go. Oh yeah, Wonder Scholar. Okay, yeah, the cloud spells are an excellent way of the non-spatial awareness of the Infinity Engine. There's basically no easy way for a character to be like, hey, I'm standing in the middle of Cloud Kill. Maybe I should move out of it. And so the clever trick that David does of basically let's put a invisible creature that then puts out shouts so that people be like, get away from me because you're standing in the middle of an area of effect spell. That's a really clever trick. I didn't realize shouts are one way to do that. You could also do it with a range check, right? If you name like the creature in the middle, like Cloud Kill or something, you can be like, if I'm within 15 feet of this Cloud Kill creature, I need to move. But yeah, that's also a clever trick. Invisible creatures can be used for all sorts of nifty little exploits around the engine. So, all right, so with our little toe dip into scripting, let's head back to items. So we did graze yesterday. I am still thinking about the Cloak of Sound Rest. I was thinking yesterday that Seven Eyes would be the way to do it, but I think we're having to do something closer to how we did Slippery Court. So again, we're going to pass on this again for today just because I want to give that a little more of a think before we get to it. So we'll jump into Lunar Shards. So Subtle Doctor, if you're watching, I apologize. So, and then did we have, okay. Because I remember, I think there was some question about whether or not we wanted to be, okay, want to be recovered from the target after use. Okay. So it's something that harms lycanthropes. They're throwing daggers. +1, +2 versus evil creatures. All right, some throwing daggers. All right. So let's start, as we always do, by grabbing some items. Looking for throwing daggers. Do we have +1 throwing daggers? I don't think we do. We do not. All right, so we'll start with this. G3C, and what's the name of this item? Lunar Shards. We'll call this Loon. Or Lunar. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is they need to be magical, they need to harm lycanthropes, and they need to do extra damage to evil. Alright, so I need to be magical. I need to... oh. Oh, dang it. One of these windows has got to look for. Harm lycanthropes. They're +1 to hit, but no extra damage. Okay, except to evil. Alright, so the bonus to hit is 1. And then let's add an effect. I think we could do this with and it's one of the 320s that can target evil specifically, but because we want this to be backwards compatible, we're going to use a little bit of an old school, but we're going to use an EFF file. Now, an EFF file, you can use it to target any of these groups. Like EA is enemy ally, general is things like undead or humanoids. You can target by race, by class, by specific. Remember, this is what certain groups use, like the Cloud Blizzards can be 77. Target by gender or alignment or kit. So we're going after evil. So we want alignment, and then we want mask evil. So mask evil means all of the evil alignments, right? You've got mask good, you've got mask lawful, mask chaotic. You've got neutral in terms of good and evil, and you've got neutral in terms of lawful and chaotic. Or you can target specific alignments. So we want this to apply only to evil alignments. Because it's going to be damage, we want it to be instant permanent. We want this to always occur because they always take an extra 2 damage. And then the resource, let's just rename this to match the item name. So this is going to be G3C Lunar. No save to this. All right, so let's save. Oh, let's go back to this. Let's save it really quick. Save, override, okay. And now let's make that EFF. So I think we can just grab one from Daystar, because Daystar also does bonus damage to evil. Oh, here we go. I think we can just copy this directly. So we're going to call this G3C Lunar. EFF. And so, yeah, it's going to do 2 points of damage, of magic type damage to the target, no save, and ignore magic resistance. So I think in this case, let's have the magic type, let's have the damage, instead of being magic, I think throwing daggers do piercing damage, I think. So let's have it match the damage type. Let's double check that for the back to the dagger. I'm pretty sure it's piercing. Lunar, and it's doing... Oh, it's doing missile damage, duh. It makes a little more sense. Go to EF, G3. Missile, there we go. That makes a little more sense. All right, all that's fine. Let's save that, override, okay. And then the other thing he wanted for this was that the item basically can be retrieved from the target. Yes, can be recovered from the target after being used. All right. So for this, we want an on-hit effect. So basically what we're going to do is when the dart hits the target, it's going to create an inventory item so that when that creature dies, basically the dart is sitting in its inventory. So when they die, basically they drop the dart. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to, when it hits a target, it's going to create an item. And we want that, since we want that to be on hit, that is not an equipment effect. That's going to go on the ranged header. So we're going to add an effect. And I forget the opcode. Let's see if we can just find it. No, not creature, RGB fade, gender, AI blindness. Create weapon. I think create weapon, that might be it. Create inventory. I know this is it. Okay. Create weapon is for something like Melf's magical beaters, where it will create the item in a special magical weapon slot. We want this to just create the item in inventory. We want it to happen on the target. We want to create one. We want this to be permanent. Again, we want this to always happen 100%. And we want it to create G3C. Is this already? Yeah, we want it to create one throwing dagger. No save, no nothing. And I think, oh, and then the other thing is he wants it to hit lycanthropes. So let's take a look at what do we got for in terms of werewolves. I think what he wants specifically is Karug from BGEE. But, oh yeah, save changes. So greater werewolves. What does Ringwolf do? Ringwolf makes them, just gives them regeneration. All right, so there's nothing special to hit these guys. This guy regenerates. Also has Ringwolf, has wear greater DR, has no special abilities. And let's see, how about just generic werewolves? They're immune to one, so they require magical weapons to hit. So they're immune to weapons that are non-magical. We've already flagged the darts as magical, so this will not block them. So they will be able to hit these werewolves. And then let's see, we also got, I'm guessing this guy also has immune one. Okay. Now, who is the, can anybody remember what her name is? Is it Anaf that's out at the Umar Hills? I think she just has a Ringwolf, but let's double check. Oh, there's multiple versions of her, of course. Yeah, she just got Ringwolf. These items that you see that are like SB and stuff, this is basically a generic slashing weapon that does 1 to 12 item, that does 1 to 12 damage. So whenever you see like an S or a B for blunt, that's why I'm not bothering to check on this, because I know that this is going to be a generic. It does slashing damage and it does 1d12. You also see variants that are like S 1 to 12, like M2, which means it's a slashing weapon that is 1 to 12, but is a +2 weapon. You'll see these mainly on creatures. Like if it's a humanoid, you'll see like they'll have a long sword or a hammer or whatever. So that's why whenever you see me hit one of these, like I already know what it is. It doesn't matter. So if I remember, let's pop over into SOD and check out Karug and the Greater Wolf Wares, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be, and if I remember right, I think they just need cold iron. So let's check out Karug. So Karug has also got Amulet 1, Shield Amulet, but Karug, let's see. Karug in his dialogue transforms. Let's look at the actions. Great creature, and he casts Greater Wolfware change on himself. So Greater Wolfware, let's check the IDS, is 2947, which should be special 2947. Or sorry, special 947. Or is it spin? Yeah, it's spin. Right? It was. Oh, for crying out loud. $9.47. It's not spin. All right. So special 947. Did I just miss it? Oh, no, it's 2. It's a wizard spell. So really quick. So in spell IDS, if you look, this has got all the nice names for spells that use in scripting. All the ones are SPPR. So like Cleric Bless is SPPR 101, right? That 1. And then Wizards are 2. So anything with a 2 is SPWI. 3s, I'm pretty sure, are the spins. So this would be spin 692. And the 4s, I believe, are specials. I always get the spins and the specials mixed up. But these should all be like special 906. So sorry, that's why it takes me a moment to figure out which spell we're actually looking for. So Spell Wizard, so he casts this on himself. What does this do? It replaces himself with Wolfware Greater. All right, let's take a look at what Wolfware Greater has in terms of protections. So Karug gets pissed off, turns into this, and he's wearing Immune 1 and Ring Wolf. Ring Wolf is immunity to weapons, non-silver. So the weapon needs to be flagged as silver to hit him. In addition to, he's also immune to non-magical. So it's already flagged as magical. It will bypass this. We need to flag the item as silver. So, all right. So let's go back to BG2. Let's go back to our item. G3C Lunar. And here, boom, flag to silver. It can now hit Greater Wolfwares. So that should be it. The other thing we might want to do, and this is going to be an EE only thing, is we can add an effect where, so in original Baldur's Gate 2, when you had a weapon like, say, Daystar. Daystar is like a +2 longsword, but it's +4 versus undead. And the original engine only had one field for enchantment, right? When you look at, what an item can hit, a creature that requires +2 weapons to hit, they're referring to this field specifically, the enchantment. And on the original engine, this was the only field that you had. So if you wanted, say, Daystar to hit like Kangax, it had to have a 4 enchantment here, which means it was +4 against everything. Now the EEs have added an effect where we can set an enchantment against specific enemies. And it's somewhere here at the back end of enchantment versus creature type. So we can make this where if it's a lycanthrope, this can strike as like a +1, a +2, a +3, a +6, whatever we want it to strike at. So we want it to be able to hit lycanthropes. So let's say we want to against race. I'm pretty sure they're just lycanthropes. Yep, against race lycanthrope. While it's equipped, let's make it strike as a, let's say, being as these are just magical darts, let's not push it. Let's just say plus. Let's make it a +3 versus lycanthropes. And for target, we want it to be self. So for any other creature, right? Like if I'm fighting clay golems, or if I'm fighting like stone golems that require a +2 weapon to hit, these darts will do nothing because they're 0 enchantment. Right, so these will not hit stone golems. Now, if I'm fighting a lycanthrope that requires a +2 weapon, this now strikes as a +3 versus lycanthrope. So it will hit that lycanthrope. It will overcome that only for lycanthropes. So this is something neat and specific added. This is an EE only opcode. So this is something that we're going to have to remove when we go to the original engine. But for the EEs, this is a nice little bonus that we can do. So I think that's everything we had in the description. It can harm all lycanthropes. I mean, like I said, in theory, we can bump. Actually, you know what? Because it says all lycanthropes, let's go ahead and bump that bonus up to a +6. Because there's no protections above +6. So when it strikes a lycanthrope, it will act like it's a +6 weapon. So even if a lycanthrope throws up like mantle, it'll go through it. The one thing that will block it is protection from magical weapons. But there's not really a lot we can do about that. There's no way to bypass like both an enchantment bonus and a non-magical weapon check. All right. So what else was in the description? All right. Can harm all lycanthropes. We've made it silver. We've made it +6 for lycanthrope. Can be recovered from the target after use. We've added the effect to where it drops in the inventory when it's done. We've added the +1. It does the basic 1d4 and it does the +2 versus evil only. Everything else is generic throwing dagger information. So that should be it. And then, yeah, Rasad is boring. This is true. Oh, only usable by good aligned or by Sun Soul monks. We might be running into a usability thing with this. Let me double check this. Okay. So we're running headlong into the problem where, actually, we might be able to do that. Let me take that back. Let's add an effect for 319, which is the override usability. Restrict item. I want to kit. We want it to be for Sun Soul specifically. Now let me double check this, because what I might be doing here is making it so that Sun Souls can't use it. So this is where we consult the IESDP and see what does opcode 319 specifically do, because I think I might be doing this backwards. When it's set to 1, this opcode restricts the item to creatures matching the object identifiers. When it's set to 0, oh, so it depends on what the power is set to, whether it's a yay or nay. Okay. So I think that even with the 319, I'm going to remove this, and I'll explain why. So getting a kit to use an item that the overall class cannot use is, I don't think that can be overridden by 319. Because if we wanted this to be used just by Sun Souls and not by, say, generic monks or even Dark Moon monks, we would have to come up here and click this, right? Clicking this is the only thing that can make general monks not use this item. But the problem is that also cannot be undone by a 319 affirmative for Sun Souls. So what I'm going to do instead is we're going to make this unusable by evil, and then also by, let's see, and then I think this is what we want. So our Sun Souls, what are the restrictions for Sun Souls? Are Sun Souls required to be good? Let's find their description. Let's match the case. Sun Soul monks. Restricted to lawful good. Oh, so we can even do no chaotic and no neutral. So it's only good usable by lawful goods. And then we can basically eliminate everything except for monks. All right, no racial requirements. Let's get rid of druids. I mean, I know gnomes can't be monk, but by doing lawful good and monk, these are redundant. And I'll leave them unchecked just in case somebody wants to install Tweak Anthology and allow, gnome Sun Souls. So this will restrict it to lawful good monks. No racial restrictions, but again, since monks can only be human by default, that doesn't really matter all that much. So this will mean that like non-Sun Souls, like if you have a lawful good monk, they can use this item, but I find that in line with kind of the idea behind the item. So let's go ahead and save it then. And actually, let me check one more thing. I think on BGT, I want to say that Karug is immune to not silver, but cold iron. So let me check. Let me pull up my BGT really quick. And let's search for the Greater Wolfware. No, it's not the BG one. Actually, it might be. The Ring Wolf in this case makes them... No, it's just regeneration. So I don't think this is the right one. Where's the other Greater Wolfware? Oh, that's the Shadow Wolf. No, that's just regeneration. And does have any equipping effects. All right, well, where's Karug then? Let's go through the proper channels. All right, Karug has dialogue. He uses BG Wizard 947 on himself. Sorry, this is a little bit of a digression. BG Wizard 947, which turns him into Wolfway Greater, which uses Immune 1 and Ring Wolf. Oh, so oh, hold on a sec. I think I know what's going on here. Yeah, I think I have my BG. I think I have my tweaks component that changes what is required to hit Karug installed on this game. So I'll check that later off stream because I would need to uninstall tweaks on my BGT game first. So for now, we'll just leave it as is, and I'll double check that off stream rather than spending another 10 minutes trying to track that down. So, all right, so we've got our files for that. Let's go back to tweak testing. Let's grab those files out of the override and move them into the mod itself. So we made the item in an F. So let's copy those back to here. Drop them in the item folder. Let's grab the F. Let's make a new F folder. Drop that in. Let's add that. Let's go to items. Let's add the new item. Okay, now let's go to the TP2 and actually copy these over. have the description. Lunar Shards. This is going to be, let's see, 14 and 15. G3C Lunar. Okay, let's grab this over to game.tray. This is going to be 14 and 15. Yep, 14 and 15 are the next slots. 10, 14 equals boom and boom. At 10, 15 equals... down to wait. And it looks like Sue has pretty much already formatted this the way the EEs have, but let's just double check that. The can harm all lycanthropes. I'm going to double check. I think, let's see how Daystar formats there. Let's see how Daystar formats its specific enchantment. Oh, it doesn't mention that it's... Okay, what about something like Kandar? Okay, it doesn't explicitly mention that it has a specific enchantment against something, even though it does. All right, so we don't need to explicitly mention that. All right, so I think then we've got everything here. Combat abilities can harm all lycanthropes. I don't think we generally have periods after these. And let me go back really quick to the Burning Earth. Okay, let's check that against other daggers really quick. It's the throwing dagger. Yep, all right. I think we are good to go. All right, so we've added the item, but then we also need the EFF, which we're going to add down here. Just add it to the same copy, except it's an EFF. We just need to drop that into the override. And there we go. So Sue had also mentioned that he wants just 7 of these to exist. We've just made one item. The quantity we will specify, because this is going to be sold by a store. When we add it to the store, we're basically going to say there's only 7 of these, and that'll be how we do it. So in case you're wondering, like that, the stack of 7 that he wants, that's how we're going to do it. So with that, let's go ahead and make our commit. We've added Lunar Shards. Yep. Commit and push. Oh, I probably should have made sure that installs first before I did that, but okay. Dodged a bullet there. You should probably make sure things install before you commit, but all right, so that was Lunar Shards. Next up, we got Never Alone and Tinker with Spectacles by CDX. All right, what do we got? We got a headgear. Hal's made of Fure, color of a Gibberlings. Can cast 3 mirror images 3 times a day, immunity to fear. It looks like he's changed this to where I suspect J. Mary has come in and asked him to tune this down. All right. No AC bonus, can be worn by everybody. And then the Traveler, Tinkerer Spectacles. Now another headgear. It looks like this is kind of like a Jan Jansen type of thing. Find traps, open locks. +2 to hit against spiders. Where it gets confused if it's not a thief or a gnome. Oh, that's interesting. Can cast knock once a day. Oh yeah, something like Jan's headgear, but less techno. So I like this. It's usable by everyone, but if you're not a thief or a gnome, you get like a 2-round penalty of confusion. Oh, that's kind of a cool little idea. It's like, yeah, everybody can use it, but that's a cool idea. Okay. So let's come over to, we'll start with the Never Alone. How are we doing on time? We're an hour 40. Okay. Yeah, I think we can get these 2 items done before we call it. All right, so they're both headgear. All right, and it's got 3 mirror images. So, well, that'll be easy. Immunity to fear, also fairly easy. That'll be just copying over a bunch of effects. So he wants it to look like the Thieves' Hood. So let's start with the Thieves' Hood as our base item. So let's look for the hood. Let's just grab Helm 29. Add a copy. And this is, he said it's called Never Alone. So we'll go G3C. And we'll just do never.item. All right. So let's see. He wants to have it 3 castings of, well, first let's check our basic information. Oh, and I'm sorry. I need to refresh the tree really quick because we didn't install. So we can also check the Lunar while we're here. Make sure it got its assignments. It's the Lunar Shards. Oh, I didn't give a lore value to this. All right, I'll have to, when we pull out the Never Alone item, we'll have to do that because it's now magical, so it needs lore. I forgot that. Okay. So sorry. Let's go back to the Thieves' Hood. All right. So we want 3 mirror images and immunity to fear. So what's an item that provides immunity to fear? I think there are helmets that do it, aren't there? Peace. There's charm protection. Keel's helmet. Protection is all forms of panic and boost morale. So that kind of does it. Invax habit poison. Ah, come on. There's got to be. All right. Well, we can kind of brute force this. Let's see if we can find any item description that includes immune to fear. No hits found. All right. Well, let's try fear immunity. Nope. All right. Well, we'll use Kiel's helmet then as our base. So immunity to effects can get a little complicated because essentially what you do is you can see all of this is required for fear immunity. So even something that you think is as simple as fear immunity gets complicated very quickly. So it's immunity to morale bonus. It's immunity to morale break. Oh, the Cloak of Bravery. There we go. Thank you. That'll be easier because it's not coming from a cursed item. Cloak of Bravery. Thank you. So yeah, this is all the stuff you need for fear immunity. So you want to immune to horror is the little spinny ball animation that plays when you get hit by a horror. You want to things that are immune to fear. Also, when you put them on, cure fear. So it removes the panic icon. It prevents future panic icons from appearing. It prevents the panic stream. It prevents a slightly different panic stream. It resets your morale break. It removes fear. This basically cures fear from the target. It sets morale. The 3 set colors are not related to fear, but then you're immune to the panic effect. It displays the resist fear icon. You're immune to morale bonus. So you notice we set morale and then we make you immune to future changes so that your morale stays constant. And then same thing, we've reset your morale break and then we make you immune to future changes. So basically you lock in the morale and morale break and then you don't allow future changes to them with these opcode 101s. So all of this, I'm going to copy all these over. We'll come back to G3C never. We're going to paste all these in. We don't need the set colors because those are just cosmetic. So there's our immunity to fear. And if that looks long and awful, you don't know the half of it. Let's go to my favorite thing to scare off people from immunities, the Ring of Free Action. 50 effects to do free action. 50. So, like I said, some of these can get complicated. So whenever you see immunity, find another item that does it and copy it, because it will save you so much time. Because trying to remember, like, oh my God, what's all involved with a fear immunity? You're not going to remember. You're certainly not going to remember free action. Something like Charm's a little simpler, but it's still, 7 to 8 effects. Something like blindness, right? You're immune to blind, you're immune to the blind icon, and you're immune to like the string blind. I think blind is about as simple as it gets, but most of these are going to involve multiple effects. So whenever possible, copy it from somewhere else. So G3C never. All right, so there's our immunity to fear. And then I think I also need to do mirror image 3 times a day. We've got that. 3 images stay. Let's also double check the weight while we're there. No armor class bonus can be worn by everybody. Okay, so let's also double check that. So the weight is 2, so we need to change that to the weight is 1. And immune by everybody. So, yes, Bard's clear. Yeah, so all of these, it's no longer a thief-only item. Just clear all of these. Usable by everybody, right? Yep. Even barbarians. By everybody, weight 1, and then we need mirror images. So, all right, let's save this. And then you know the drill. We've even done this specific spell before. We need mirror image. We want the scroll. We want the casting. We'll copy it. We'll come back to G3C nav. We'll paste it. Boom. We want it to be usable after identification. We want it to be, what is mirror image again? Mirror image is Spell Wizard 212. All right, so we want Spell Wizard 212B. Update value. Cast on the caster. Range 1. All that's correct. Except this time it's 3 times a day. So we got 3 charges. We want the item to recharge after resting. So this, this came up with Glitter Gear's books. But this is going to be the same thing, right? If you use this mirror image, it's going to trip the Cowled Wizards. But making an alternative mirror image spell is compatibility issues down the line. So we're just going to have it cast the spell. So, and I think that's it, right? 3 mirror images, immune to fear. Boom, boom. No armor class bonus. Doesn't have one. Can be worn by everybody. It does not protect against critical hits. Actually, that is something we need to do. So in the original engine, anything, it's already set. Anything that in the headgear slot automatically protected from critical hits. Iowan stones, thieves' hoods, no matter what. TOBX, which was the original Baldur's Gate 2 version of, if you're familiar with EEEX, added a whole bunch of things, right? So E and EX. Toggle critical hits. So headgear normally protects against critical hits. By checking this box, it toggles it, so it now no longer protects critical hits. Now on armor, which doesn't protect against critical hits, if you were to set this flag on an armor, it means that the armor would now protect from critical hits. So basically whatever the default behavior is, setting this flag does the opposite. So it makes headgear not protect, and it makes other items protect. So he doesn't want it to protect against critical hits, which is how it should be. So we want to make sure that that flag is set, because otherwise, being headgear by default, it would protect against critical hits, which we do not want for this item. All right, so everything else is fine. All right, let's go ahead and save this. Save, overwrite, okay. That item is done. All right, what's our next item? So our other item is the Tinkerer Spectacles, a whole bunch of thieving bonuses, and then some thieves only, and then some thief and gnome stuff. And can cast knock once per day. All right, so I'm going to grab, I think the Jansen headgear is probably a good start for this. So all of the NPC specific items are all NP something. Jansen Adventurer, that's his armor, isn't it? Yeah, that's his armor. The spectroscopes, there we go. Let's add a copy. What is it? That's Tinkerer. So we'll do G3C. Oh, come back here. G3C, and we'll just do tinker.item. All right, and so, but this item, so this has, this 319 is what's used to restrict this item just to Jan. So we're going to remove that because this is supposed to be usable by everybody. So we're going to clear out all these flags. Let's select none. There we go. Barbarians too. It's usable by everybody. And then let's see. 25 to traps, 5 to locks. 25 to traps. Oh, this has immunity to blind, which we don't want. So let's remove that. So traps, well, traps was 5, right? Or was it 25? 25 to traps. Find traps bonus 25. Increment. Yep, that's all correct. And then instead of illusion, we want to do, it was open locks, right? Just somewhere in the 90s, I think. Yeah, open locks. So in this case, we want a 5% bonus. Instant while equipped. Hey, Diogo. All right, so there's our find trap. There's our open locks. That's another blindness immunity. We don't want that. Okay. All right, so try the traps. 5% to hit for thieves against spiders. Let's grab the knock first. Let's do that really quick. L's knock. $207. Okay. All right. Let's paste. Oh, this is, oh, that was the existing one from his. That's the leftover. This is the knock, yeah. Wants to knock once per day. It's Spell Wizard 207B. Let's double check that. That's knock, right? Yeah, that's knock. Ta-da. It needs to be 1 charge. Item recharges. After resting, everything else is fine. All right. Okay, so now we want, let's see, we want a +2 to hit that is only for thieves. So let's add an effect. I think it's at 326. So if it's a thief, we want it to apply, or should I do this via EFF? Yeah, let's do this via EFF instead, because then it will backport. All right, so we want to go use an EFF from class, thief all, while it's equipped, 100. The resource, we're going to name it the exact same thing as this item. End of this string. It's going to be G3C Tinker. All right. Yep, all that is correct. All right, let's save, overwrite. Okay, now we want an EFF. And the nice thing is there is an effect that does bonuses just specifically against. Let's see, one of these should have it. It does damage just for, or sorry, to hit bonuses for specific creatures. So somewhere in here, I know one of these does it. I just don't know. There it is. Thacoverse type bonus. Let's copy this. We're going to call this G3C Tinker.ef. This is one of those times where I know there's something that does it, so I can just grab it. So we want it first race, except we want to get some race spider. I'm pretty sure they've got a racial entry. They do. Okay. And we want it to be a +2 bonus. I think that's that. Yeah. All right, let's save, overwrite, okay. All right, and so now the confusion effect for non-thieves and non-gnomes. So G3C Tinker. All right, so there's a couple ways we can do this. We can use, well, actually this gets a little tricky because both gnomes and thieves are immune. So we're going to add an effect. And what we're going to do is we're going to make an immunity to an item that is specific. And we're going to make it basically, I'm immune to the effects of this item if I'm a gnome or if I'm a thief. And so how we do that is it's a 318 or it's a 324. Okay, I think 324 does it without a message. Okay. So if I am, I think so if the race, I don't want not equal, I want equal. All right, so if the race is a gnome while I'm equipped, I'm actually going to make myself immune to, it's basically a self-referential. So basically, if I'm a gnome, I'm now immune to the effects of this item. And that may sound like it means that you're going to lose everything else from it, but I'll discuss this a little bit more in a moment. So let's copy this. Now let's do that again. Except this time we're going to do it for class equals a specified value, and we want thief. So if you notice, there's a thief and there's a thief all. So the class entries have the entries that are in the 200s, like all of these all entries. The difference between thief and thief all, thief is only for pure class thieves. So if I just did thief, like mage thieves, cleric thieves, fighter mage thieves, this would not apply. Thief all means any, if you're a dual class or you're a multi-class thief, you're included in this. But same idea, right? If I'm a class, any class of thief, I'm now immune to the item. Now this is a good place to talk about. Actually, you know what? We can be clever with this. Hold on, let me. This is a good place to talk about effect orders. Actually, no, I do the, I can't do that actually, now that I think about it. All right. So the reason why these are last is because effects go into effect in the order that they're listed here. So this says I'm now immune to everything from this item, but that's after these three things have gone into effect, after the fine traps, after the open locks, and after the, this is the spider to hit bonus. So anything that follows these, thieves and gnomes are now immune to. So after this is where we're going to add that confusion that lasts for 2 rounds. So let's go to the confusion spell and see what all is involved in confusion and just copy effects from it. So let's go to page 709. We're going to save changes. So basically we need confusion. We're going to display string confused. We're going to put the confused icon. We're going to play a sound, a visual effect, and then a little bit, just a little quick color blip. So let's just copy all of these. Let's go back to the item, and we're going to have to do some changes because it's going to be a different duration and stuff. G3C Tinker. All right, and we're going to paste these. Now, because all of these follow these 2 immunities, that means that thieves and gnomes, like if I'm a thief, it goes, all right, boom, you got fine traps. Boom, you got open locks. Boom, you got the spider bonuses. And then it says, oh, I'm immune to this item. So everything that follows doesn't apply to thieves. And same with gnomes. Gnomes get this bonus, this bonus. They don't get this because they're not a thief. But it gets here and it says, oh, now I'm immune to all the effects from this item. And it ignores all of these. So everything that follows these two is only going to be for non-thieves, non-gnomes. So, all right. So we said it's going to be for 2 rounds. So the first thing is spell immunities, like level immunities shouldn't change it. So we're going to make it a 0 level power. It's 2 rounds. It's going to last 12 seconds. And is there I don't think he said there's a save. Nope. So no save. So we're going to remove the save. And the bonus doesn't matter if there's no save, but I'm going to clear it out anyway, just to be safe. Excuse me. So I'm going to copy all of these parameters and go to the next one. We're going to display the string. Oh, except I can't do this because this one is different timing. So, okay. So it needs to be power 0. This one, so when you display a string, you always use the instant permanent. I'm going to spell 0. This is a 0. All right. Display portrait icon. This should be. Oh, did I copy from the wrong place? I got confused. I want to copy from power. Yeah, that should be copying. The save bonus. Copy. I should just be able to. All right, well, whatever. Power 0. Wanted to be confused icon limited for 12 seconds. No save. No save bonus. All right, well, I guess we'll have to do this manually. The sound. So this is an expiry sound because it's played with delay permanent. So this plays actually when the effect expires. But again, no spell, no save. Okay. And play visual effect. Yep. Yeah, thieves are immune to the gnome immunity. Yeah. But it doesn't matter because you just want them we just don't want them to be confused when they hit it. So all right. Visual effect, and then finally reach your RGB. Yeah, this is just a brief little. It just plays basically like a little flourish of color. All right, so the confusion, all these have no power. They all are 12-second duration except for the string, of course, and the power flash. All right, so I think that should be it for this. Now, we're going to have to do this a different way when we get to the original because 324 is an EE opcode. Like anything, I think the EE opcodes start somewhere in the high 290s, but 324 is definitely enhanced edition only. So when we go back to the original, we're going to have to find a different way to do this. But that's probably what we'll do is we'll change these to Fs, where the Fs basically say, hey, I want you to be immune to a special spell. And instead of all of these, we'll farm these out to a spell. So it'll be thieves are immune to a spell, gnomes are immune to a spell, and then we cast the spell. So the spell will only affect thieves and gnomes. Now, the other thing too is, let me think about this too, because equipping effects, oh yeah, I might have to do this a slightly different way. Because equipping effects go into effect when you equip the item, but they also go into effect when you change areas and when you load the game. Yeah, actually this is not going to work. Because that means that every time you change area, this confusion is going to apply. Or every time you load the game, you're going to get 2 rounds of confusion. So that is, I didn't think about that. Let me think about how we can prevent that. Let me think about that. I'm probably going to put in a delayed effect. Because there's no easy way to be like, yeah, we just loaded the game, don't do this. Or we just changed areas, don't do this. So yeah, I'm going to have to think about this a little bit. To where it only does it where it gets equipped and not just because I'm loading the game. So I think we can, let's do this. Let's copy this. Let's paste it. Except this time we're going to make this to anyone. And we're going to make you immune to this, but it's going to be go into effect after 12 seconds. Will that work? I think I'm going to have to test this because right now this is going to go off, like I said, every time the game is loaded, and I need to think of a better way to block this so that it's only going to go into effect when it's equipped and not on loads. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because it's not just, like I said, equipping effects basically whenever the creature is loaded or when the item is equipped, because that forces an update to the creature file. So yeah, these are going to fire every time you change areas because that forces the creature to be reloaded. And it's also going to go into effect every time. You know what? Okay. We're going to do it this way, even though this is a little bit of a hack. What we're going to do is we're going to make it so that this only applies to a character once ever. So what we're going to do is, if I'm, for like, let's say Jaheira puts this on, because she's not a gnome and she's not a thief. Jaheira, the very first time she puts it on, she will get this. She will get confused for 2 rounds. And then every time she puts it on afterwards, she will never get confused again. So how we're going to do that is we're going to do a delay. Actually, no, we can just do it. Yeah, let's delete that. Let's copy one of these and we'll put it at the end. No, you're not putting it at the end. All right, let's cut you. Let's put you at the end then. All right. So thieves and gnomes. Oh, I cut the wrong one. God damn. Nah. Let's try this again. All right, let's get the extra thief one. All right. Let's put you at the end. It's just the fun of reordering stuff. Oh, and I just lost it. Oh. All right. Let's discard changes. Oh, I lost. Oh, that was dumb. All right. Well, let's redo a little bit of work. That was dumb. I tried to save a little bit of time and ended up wasting a whole bunch more. So let's make this instant permanent. Yeah, okay. We'll do it this way. All right, sorry. Let's redo a little bit of work here really quick. Let's re-grab these effects. Copy. G3C Tinker. Okay. So this is a little bit of an interpretation of the of what was proposed. 12, no save, and 0. I think this at least we can copy from field to field. It's permanent, power 0. No save. 0. All right, sorry we're redoing work. This is silly, but there we go. All right, I think because the top was separate, that's why it wasn't working. Come here. Play sound. Because this is an instant effect, we won't mess with it. And then the expiry sound. Nope, we don't want to mess with the sound. Spell 0. Oh, thank you, Skelly. I will go back and do that. I thought it was cold iron. Ta-da. $12, no spell. So we'll circle back to the Lunar Shards and add that. Thank you. RGB, again, power 0. No save. All right, so now how this is going to work, now that we've got this sorted. Oh, but will that... Oh, okay. We're going to have to externalize the spell. Because by making it permanently immune to this item, that means when you re-equip it, you're going to be immune to these. Okay. All right. Let's try this one more time. So let's grab the confusion spell. Let's add a copy of it. This is going to be G3C Tinker. Not spell. All right. We don't need a casting sound. No break sanctuary, but it shouldn't be nor wild search dead magic. Let's clear out the name because it's already going to display the confused string. Let's make it an innate. Let's remove the school because we don't want it blocked by stuff. Same with this. Update value, disabling, make that none. Icons don't matter, the description doesn't matter. Let's remove these. One more time. Yeah, sorry, it just occurred to me that this is going to have to be an external spell because we want it to just block the confusion effect, not the beneficial stuff. So one more time. But it's going to be the same basic idea, right? Only the very, very first time that you put on the item will you get hit with this confusion. Subsequent wearings will not. And I think that's the easiest and that's the easiest way to get around this. It's not without doing something really, really over the top. All right, so let's save the spell. Save, overwrite, okay. Oh, except I do need to rename this because it needs to be something separate because 206 can also pick up other things. So we're going to try this. CD Tink Z dot spell. All right, now let's go back to the item. G3C Tink. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, Lunar Shards. Let's make it Cold Iron too. Save. All right, okay. Back to the Tinker. So now instead of all of this, let's remove, actually, let's remove that. We're going to keep the string just for a moment. We're going to change this instead to cast spell on self. We're going to cast instantly. A level 1. It doesn't matter because it only has one heather. It's going to be permanent probability. It's going to be G3C Tink Z. Update value. Also want to copy this for later use. No save. All right, and you guys are instead immune to Tink Z. All right, yeah, sorry that, that's a good example of, oh, hey, here's a clever way to do it. And then you realize, oh, wait, that's actually not going to work. And just to make sure that because we're going to an external spell, sometimes there can be a little bit of a delay. So instead of this being instant permanent, we're going to make this delay permanent and we'll make it 2 rounds later after the confusion wears off. So basically the confusion will go into effect and then 2 rounds later, they become permanently immune to the spell in the future. So it's only going to happen once. All right, I think we've got it now finally. So let's grab these out of the override. all those updates we just did. Come on, get back to the override folder. There we go. We'll also grab the updated Lunar Shards since we just made that change to it. And we'll also grab the Never Alone. Let's bring these back to our folder. Drop in the items. Yes, we want to update Lunar. We want to grab the F into the F folder. Items, and then the spell. Tortoise get add. Alright, tortoise get add. Okay, so now let's head back. G3C tink z dot spell. And then where was I doing the Fs? The Fs were being done down here. Okay. Oh, G3C. But the F is, but the EFF is the R. Okay. All right, let's grab the descriptions from the forum. The Never Alone and the All right, so the first one is G3C Never. And that one is going to be 16 and 17. The Never Alone. And who's this by? I think GCR. CDX. CDX. All right. And then we also have, it's going to be 18 and 19. We're going to have the Tinkerer Spectacles. All right. Let's grab these over to the game.tray. Save these over here. All right, Neveralone is 1016. 1016. Boom and boom. And 1017 equals. And we're removing this, that's right. Just Immunity to Fear, cast 3 mirrored images. Let me pull up the Cloak of Bravery again and see how they do the fear immunity, or how they describe it. Immunity to fear and panic. So we'll use that text since that already exists in the game. Fear and panic. Oh, and you know what? Yeah, we're going to have to differentiate these because one of these is an equipped ability. Yeah, this is going to be the equipped ability is the immunity to fear and panic. And then we already have something that casts mirror image, so we can just grab that from an existing description. Yeah. Oh, that's why it's. Where is it? There we go. We can just grab this from a description we've already done. So there's the equipped abilities. Let's add the charge abilities. Mirror image 3 times per day. And I don't think I noticed this the first time, but he wants to do it at level 3. So let's open this item back up. And at level 3, where is this? Is the never item. Okay. So we're casting the spell at level. We want to cast instantly at the specified level, and the specified level is 3. So it's basically your a very low level mirror image. All right. So let me grab that from the override again and get the updated item that I just made. Yes, replace it. Okay, because I missed that the first time around. All right, so mirror image 3 times a day, and if it's at the lowest level, it should only last. Mirror image. 3 rounds plus 1 round per level, so this is going to be a 6-round ability because it's being cast at level 3. And then I believe it should also only be 2 duplicates. Right. Oh, let me go to the spell itself. See what it does at level 3. I'm pretty sure it's only 2 images. At level 3, yep. Let's see. Come here. Mirror images. Oh, it has 4 images at level 3. Really? It says 2 to 8. Alright, well, we'll leave it generic. I don't want to dig into this right now. Alright, so that is the Never Alone. And then we'll do 10, or we got 18. The Tinkerer Spectacles. 10, 19 equals. Abilities. This is, change that to +5. Knock once per day. Okay. So same thing. Some of these are equipping abilities. So let's go back to. Actually, you know what? Let's go to Elven Chain because it lifts all of these, even though it does it as a penalty. All right, we'll do equipped abilities. Okay. Equipped abilities, it's 25 to traps. That's 25, and it's +5 to locks. All right. Let's do, okay, I think this also should go right there like that. Same with this. I can't think of anything else that does something like this, so. And then the knock once per day is going to be a charge ability like this. It's going to be knock once per day. And then we'll get a little mini description of knock. Find spells. Knock. Let's go find some textogram. All right. And duration, I think, is just instant, right? Yeah. All right, I think that's everything for these. Boom and boom. Oh, not 2019, 1019. All right. Okay, let's do a quick install test, make sure we've gotten everything right. Everything is right. Refresh the tree, make sure these show up with their proper descriptions. Item G3C Never, the Tinkerer Spectacles. Yep, and then... Oh, I've got these wrong. Oh, I think I'm copying the same item twice. Yep. That's our problem. That would be why. All right, let's try this again. Glad I checked. All right, one more. Refresh the tree. Item G3C Never. Never Alone. Ta-da, yep. And then Tinkerer Spectacles. Yep. All right. Oh, weight should be 1. How about on Never Alone? Wait, also one. Wait is one. Okay. There's nothing goofy here. I don't think so. And then Tinker's Spectacles. All right. I think these are good to go. Let me copy over the items one last time to get those last couple of changes that I just made. Modified. Tinkerer. Yeah, the Tinkerer is the item I just changed. Item. Boom. Replace. All right. Add these to the repo. Tortoisegit. Add. I'm pretty sure I just added an EFF. I did. Yeah, nothing. Already added that. All right, I think that's it. So let's make our commit. This is going to be added never alone and Tinkerer's Spectacles. Yep. Commit and push. All right, and then I think that's going to be our last item for the day. So we're going to do our normal closeout here. We're going to update the version numbers. This is now the 1022 nightly. In the mod package, in the TP2, we'll also update the version here. Make one more commit. This is going to be Tortoisegit Master. This is going to be nightly update 10. 22, 24. Commit and push. All right. Let's delete the old packages just to keep things neat and tidy. Let's run it. Let's make our new. There's our new packages. Let's head over to GitHub. GitHub G3. Head on over to the community item pack. We're going to do another release. This is going to be the. Oh, I wanted to just match it and then edit it, but 10, 22, 20, or 10, 21, 24. Yep, that's going to be nightly build 10, 21, 10 slash 21 slash 24. We're just going to say it's a nightly build. It's a pre-release. Let me grab my files. Drop them in. Boom, boom, boom. Yep. And that's good. Nightly build. It's a pre-release. Publish. Oh. Did I flag it as a draft? No, I want to publish. There's an error created. Oh, because I'm using the old tag. That's why. That's why I won't publish. Sorry. Let's try this again. Now let's publish. There we go. Oh, except this is. I'm still using yesterday's date and the title. Update. Okay. So now if we come to the community item pack, you'll notice we now have. I'm sorry, I don't want to create new releases. We now have 2 releases for nightly builds. And I'm sure. Yep, we got our IE mod there. So. And this was. I meant to mention this at the very beginning. Jassy pointed this out. So I mentioned that I'm using a script, a GitHub action that Alien provided that makes those IE mod packages for me. This is actually a custom version that I had Alien do for me that makes just the IE mod. The normal package from Alien makes the IE mod and then also makes a generic zip file, which I don't want because I want to use the G3 packaging. So I wanted to mention that at the beginning and I totally forgot. So this is a slightly different version than the general one that's out there. I do use a custom one for that. So, yeah, clarification on scripts. Don't shout numbers that matter and that you don't want. Yes. Yeah, so you do want to find some unique shouts. In theory, let me pull this up really quick because in theory, we should all be using shout.ids to let your other folks know what shouts are being used. nobody updates shout IDS. In fact, in the original Shadows VOM, this file doesn't even exist. Fixpack had to add it. That's how little shout IDS is used. So yes, you want to use unique shout numbers. Like I said, in theory, we'd all register them here on shout IDS, but nobody does. So just make sure that you're using a unique number that nobody else is using, and that you're responding to your own unique number. And really, that's it. If we were actually using shout IDS, it would be easy, very easy to tell if anyone else is doing it. Since nobody is, you kind of basically have to go search, text search for BCS and see what does shout parentheses turn up, right? And it's like, all right, here are all the values that are being used in game. You can see there are global shouts being used, 151, 76, 9,000s, 100. There were some that were actually using these values here. So this was actually using 124. But find some unique values. But yes, you just want to make sure that the shout and the herd are using the same values. Try to avoid what other people are using. Some of these have action overrides, 181, 777. As far as I know, I think shout is unlimited. So you see like there's some 9,000s being used here. You can insert your own Vegeta. It's over 9,000 joke here if you want to. But yeah, I mean, just make sure it's unique. And the problem is because no other mods, I think, use shout IDS either. You're probably just gonna have to stake out a territory and say these are my shout numbers. And if you see anybody else using them, change or get them to change. It's a little bit of a wild west in the shout range because again, nobody uses shout.ids. So, all right. So with that, I think that's going to be it. We've published our nightly build. If you guys have any questions, by all means, ask them. I didn't get to the recap thread yesterday. I didn't make one because I ended up spending like 3 hours on the phone trying to deal with a house insurance matter. So my day yesterday got wasted very, very quickly. So I will do a recap today, and I'll also recap yesterday. So if you have any questions, ask them there or Discord or in the comments under the video. I'll do it, and we'll do the same thing tomorrow. We'll start off our video answering questions from the previous video. So otherwise, we will see you again at the same time tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. Hope you had fun. Hope you learned something. And we will see you guys tomorrow.